everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is a lovely warm fall day and we are here in my backyard, a place where you guys haven't been in a while, and actually because it's the fall I haven't been back here either, to be honest. But I was gonna do a quick garden tour for those of you who had been following along, and you'll see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because there have been things that I have neglected, there are things that I've let go wild, and there are things that were kind of experiments for me, and I wanted to see how far I could take it. And so I'll kind of explain what I've got going on, and then be nice to me. Don't be cruel about my garden. It is what it is. There's no shaming in gardening. As long as you are doing what you're doing, don't shame others and don't shame yourself. A garden is meant to go wild sometimes, and mine is definitely wild. So before we get to the vegetables, I want to address my problem with houseplants. My problem in that I love them so much. And this is a mix back here of things that are not houseplants, some things that are dead, and some things that are just up here to protect them from the elements. We had a couple of nights where it actually dipped below freezing, and some of these, like these are my pineapple, and I wanted to just protect them by getting them underneath this kind of covering awning area. I don't have a greenhouse. I don't have a really good way of protecting anything, especially my tropical plants. So my avocado right there, my tall one back there, and then there's another one over there. My avocado is doing great, but won't do well if it dips below freezing for too long. I have some indoor plants, like some pothos, that I actually started from cuttings and now have them in those pots. I've got Minka here. This is Minka. She's a silver begonia, and I just haven't brought her in yet. And then I've got a couple of other things that really should come in very soon, and I have just neglected to do that. But number one reason is because I really just have no more space in my house because my house plants. That's another tour for another day, but I wanted to address my addiction, and I will say I'm super duper proud of myself. I have not bought a house plant in a long time, and by long time, like months and months. So these are all my succulents. I've got Christmas cactus, a couple of really sad bromeliads, and some aloe and things like that, which I'm hoping to bring in at the very last minute if I can possibly help it. One of the things I wanted to try, get this out of the way, is ginger. This ginger, let's get a good light here. This is ginger that we bought from the grocery store, and I threw into a pot, and look, it's working. Go figure. I couldn't get it to grow in Oregon, but here we are. And so we'll just leave it in a pot. Hopefully we'll move and I'll have a place to put it in the ground. These little babies back here are lemons, lemon trees, baby lemon trees. I actually sprouted them from seeds from lemons I bought in the grocery store. Who knows if they will ever produce lemons? But isn't this just the coolest thing? I can't even believe that I was that successful. I do have, like I showed you before, avocado trees growing, and they're doing okay. I probably need to repot a couple of them, but they're alive. And then these four beauties right here, which are very pokey, pineapple. And I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. These were ones I got from the grocery store. I just cut the tops off, took the bottom parts of it off, and I'll do a video sometime on that. Super duper easy. Threw it in dirt, and here we are. And finally over here I have tomato starts. I know it's November, but oh my gosh, I have tomato starts. Isn't that crazy? These were, they'll probably never do anything. You can see some of them are dying back there. They'll probably never do anything, but again, I experimented so much this year. I even have them in that shelf way over there. This was an amazing process. Look at this guy. I mean, I find that incredibly amazing that I was even, I mean, it's November, folks. If I had a nice warm house for them, they'd probably do really well. All right, I know this guy is looking scrawny and nasty, and you can't see him very well because of the weeds and the brightness. But this is a marigold that has produced over and over. I have more marigold seeds than I know what to do with, and I'm just letting it go. Okay, here is the good, the bad, and the ugly of my garden. There is still some beautiful things out here in my garden. So these are echinacea, and you can see there is some pest damage to it, but look how well it is still producing. These are little mini zinnias, and I have another grouping of them that have completely taken over here. They're in between the bucket. We'll get a better picture over there in a minute. But these guys, I did have another batch of it over here, but it did not survive. And I have harvested a bunch off of these as well. I'll come back through and show you what I planted, what I planted for my fall garden here in a minute. But I wanted to show you the carnage that happened from a really bad windstorm, and then of course the hurricane that came through after, which knocked things over. And as you can see, I left about 6 or 7 corn stalks up because I still had beans and other viney things growing up them, and I didn't want to take their support system away. So I left them, and then we had the windstorms, and so now I have this carnage, which I really should just go in and clean up, but here we are, not cleaning it up. I do have to show you these over here. This was an experiment for me that has been successful, and actually you can see it's still going strong. This is a watermelon. I would pluck it, however, this is still nice and healthy down here, so I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm going to let it continue to grow. When I see that it's starting to die off, I'll go ahead and pick it. But isn't this just, I am sorry, this is so beautiful. The wildness of it is so romantic to me. I know that sounds so weird, but I love it. If you're a gardener and you understand the wildness of it, please let me know. Drop a line in my thing. It bothers me when you go out and see a garden that's completely in neat little rows and there's nothing wild growing in it. And I think the reason why it bothers me is because nature is not. I mean, look at the trees over there. They're not, they grow where they want to. Anyway, my waxing poetically. I love these little guys. Okay, in my bucket here, I have a sweet potato that, again, came from the grocery store and was sprouting in my pantry, and so I threw it in the bucket. Okay, experiments with my tomatoes. I put them in buckets. You're probably thinking, why? Why would you put them in buckets? Well, I put them in buckets because I wanted to see how this might work, especially since I'm in a rental. So underneath here, there is a colander that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I put that, it fits just so that there's about this much room at the bottom, so I could fill this up with water and have water at the bottom. Now, was it perfect? No. They were susceptible to fungus, plus they were really top heavy. I mean, these guys were huge, and I didn't have the correct support system for them. So I will not be doing it this way. I'll be doing them in deep, deep bedding so that they have plenty of room. Yeah, but for now, this was just an experiment, you guys. And I liked what I got. We got some tomatoes, but there was a lot of nutrient deficiencies, and you could tell by the harvest that we got. But if you'll notice, in here, I've got a lot of volunteers. These I did not plant. These were just from the tomatoes that fell down and fell in here, and now that's what we have. And we actually have that here in these ones and in that, and so it's just kind of cool. This row here that is pretty bare now had all my sunflowers in it, and actually some sunflowers are coming back up because I purposefully planted them, and then also because of what fell out of the sunflowers seeding themselves into the ground. But I had one that was planted right here that came up. The stalk was about 3-4 inches in diameter. It came up because it was so heavy. It bent over this way. And look what we have done here. We have little sunflower volunteers because all the seeds and things fell back in here. And so I find that just delightful. Look at all those beauties. So cool. We even have a lettuce volunteer because I had lettuce over here. Look at that thing. So cool. So cool. Okay. We're gonna go down this row and then just move up the rows real quick. I really don't have anything growing in here. I planted stuff, but it didn't come up here, and I'm not sure why. I had 3 cabbage plants that I gave as tribute to the moth population. They are continuing to grow. Do you see? This was the state of these 3, but it kept the moths off of other things. They could eat these easily, whereas if they didn't have anything for them to eat, they would have just continued to eat my other plants, like my beans. But look at this one. It's looking good. I have peas that I just planted for the fall and some beans. And you can see them. I need to come in here and stake them up, which I will probably next week. I also have, and I don't know where they all are, but I've got kale, kohlrabi, all basically my fall crops. They're having a hard time here because it's still quite warm. So hopefully they don't bolt. I have all kinds of things. Oh, look. I have a volunteer corn plant from my corn that I grew in here. But all of these are doing really good. I have a lot of different kales. I do have some cabbage. I have spinach. And I'll have to look back through my notes to see what else I have in here. But they're doing good. Look at that. So nice. Look at this guy right here. Isn't that beautiful? It's just so lovely. Now, what's the deal with the corn? The corn actually did really well. And I have to brag. They were probably within the 13, 14 foot tall range. And that was amazing, amazing, amazing. And you can see that spindly little top right there. I did a 3 sisters garden. I know I didn't mention that before, but 3 sisters. Basically, I planted green beans, corn, and pumpkins, or viney things. So my viney ones like these that will cover the ground, my corn that will grow up, and my beans that will provide nitrogen to the soil. And then also, and you can see remnants of it here, they will grow up the corn stalk, as these guys did. And that was awesome. It provided the most amazing structure for my beans. I didn't have to tie up anything. I just came out here and picked them right off the corn stalks. It was so cool. And then, of course, the beans providing nitrogen back into the soil for the corn. I think that is why my corn succeeded so well. If you watched any of my previous gardening videos, I put cardboard down. I had 2-year-old aged manure dirt mix that I made into rows. I grabbed pine straw and leaves from underneath my trees over there, and that's what my garden grew in. It probably didn't have all the nutrients it needed, but I'm not complaining. It did really, really well. These delight me. Absolutely delight me. Look at that. Don't worry, I'm not going to eat them. I don't know anything about mushrooms, you guys. It's one of the things that I would love to get into. I'd actually love to grow mushrooms for culinary purposes. I just think that's so delightful. We have had, in the morning time, especially on hot days, our lawn in the front there just completely covered in these beautiful mushrooms. Just reminds me of the Israelites in the desert and manna being provided to them every day. Let's talk about these. I have peppers and tomato plants still over here. I have heard that you can overwinter your peppers. You don't have to replant them from seed every year. I might try that with a couple of these pepper plants that look good. It's not quite time. I do need to come through here and clean up. I've let a lot of them kind of rot on the branches, but I mean, as you can see, I've got some really healthy foliage still. And like this one, I could probably cut it down. Apparently you're supposed to prune it way back, water it really, really good, and then let it completely dry out. Put it in a bucket and leave it. I still have peppers growing, and they've been great. They're not hot. The kids have been able to just eat them. And then look at those little bells down there. They're really good. Well, that's kind of it. That's the extent of my gardening in a rental. As much as I would love to have a full-blown garden that is producing everything, I just don't have the ability to do that. Chickens helping me close my garden down, peaceful, quiet, bird sounds. Instead, we get to hear traffic, but I'm not complaining. I have been able to learn so much this year, including things like nutrient deficiencies from my plant, what grows really well in the Carolinas in these hot, humid climates compared to what I used to grow in Oregon. This has been an incredibly important learning year for me. I'm so thankful that even though it might not look the way I thought it should look, it's provided an enormous amount of information that I can use again next year. And an incredible amount of seeds. I have so many seeds, you guys. I'm gonna do another video on all the seeds I saved this year. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, have a fabulous day. It is nice and warm. I think it's like in the upper 70s today. I could lay out and get a tan in November. Huh, amazing. All right. See you guys later, and thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye.